Joan Crawford, apparently, about 4 hours ago. I'm signing because this event minimizes the trauma suffered by African American, just the one. I believe it adds to the trauma. The United States officially has a new federal holiday. For about 40 years, Juneteenth was observed in Texas, commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. And it's hard to argue that that doesn't deserve some kind of celebration. For Black Americans, it's a second Independence Day, and for non-Black Americans, it's basically a day where our country became significantly less immoral. So on badideiasthatshouldn'thappen.org, sometimes known as change.org, there is a petition to cancel a Juneteenth Coalition's Anguish of Elders Feast, or as they call it, the Pretend to be Enslaved Day. Very charitable interpretation, I'm sure. However, the event is detailed as a bunch of people work on a field for 246 minutes, a minute to represent each year of enslavement. Enslavement despite slavery being over 400 years long. I'm like, well, I mean, from 1619 when slaves arrived in the North American colonies to the Emancipation Proclamation, so about 246 years, yeah. As specifically an American holiday, it's kind of based around American slavery, which did last that long, in North America. So for June 18th is the Anguish of the Elders. They're going to empathize, they say, by fasting from sunup to sundown, and then there will be a feast. So anyone who doesn't participate in the fast has to pay for the food. Anyone who does participate in the fast and does the work, probably for a volunteer drive, because this is like a very kind of left-wing. But yeah, the people who do the work get it for free. The people who don't do the work have to pay the $50 that this person is upset about. The enslavement period was not just Africans being forced into the fields to work, it was mass lynching, whipping, starving, separating family, breeding, dehumanizing, murdering, beating, and yes, even cannibalism. I'd have to look into that one, but yeah, they probably are not going to reenact any of this stuff, because if they did, you would just call it fetishizing and also inappropriate. So there really isn't a win condition here. 246 minutes of more than likely non-Black people pretending to be enslaved in a field in Carmel does not reflect anything of the enslavement period. Years can't be replaced by minutes. I'm like, nobody said they can. God, these people. From what we're seeing here, the Juneteenth coalition appears to be a very multiracial group, using the right buzzwords like systemic racism, and they're totally entitled to have an event celebrating this, pretty, momentous holiday, however they see fit. It's their freedom of assembly, it's their freedom of speech, and just like this person has the freedom of speech to complain about it and take issue with it, to try to get it shut down, I kind of patently disagree with. I really don't like this "it's only wrong when the government does it" mentality that I'm seeing come out of the left a lot these days. It used to just be the right who would say that, and now it's the left who says it. Something being bad when the government does it doesn't mean it's suddenly okay when private industry does it. If the government recognizes freedom of speech and freedom of assembly as rights the citizens should have, and that it's tyranny to, usurp that or stand in the way of it, then how is it suddenly okay for you to manipulate private means and businesses into doing the same thing? How does this event empower Black people? Do they expect Black people to come to the field and pretend to be enslaved? That's disrespectful to our full family and us. Says you. You're welcome to that opinion. It's symbolic, and if someone wants to do that, that's the message that they can do. That's how they honor that pain. But trying to stop them from doing that, that's just ridiculous. To encourage empathy is contradicting to the event. If anything, it downplays the historical violence in Black communities and mocks the suffering the Black community has experienced for years. I'm sorry that you see it that way. I don't. So, where's the mockery? No one's saying that it was fun or that it was actually 246 minutes. It's a new holiday and people are still figuring out how to celebrate it, and this is one way that people can do that. Because slavery, believe it or not, isn't a fun, bright topic with a whole lot of levity to it. So one tradition that you might come up with is a fast and labor. And it's not like, rape and whipping, but it's something to maybe feel productive in your community, get to work with people in your community, and ultimately come together at the end, paying tribute to the suffering of many people who helped build this country in a way. Black, are you kidding me? This is an atrocious event that needs to be canceled. There needs to be accountability and apologies. Gee, they always want somebody to apologize to them. I don't think I've been apologized to in my adult life, frankly, and these people just insist on it all the time. And I'm not talking about like black people. I mean just like these victim people. The fact that someone planned this event thinking they were being woke is gross. Or maybe they weren't even trying to be woke. Maybe they were trying to do exactly what they said. And again, progressivism looks different for different people. Reenactments do not create clarity or understanding. Think of us Civil War reenactments. Well, that's up to how well they integrate history into the event, but it's not necessarily for greater clarity. It can be emotional, it's just traditional. Again, people can do what they want. So back on the Juneteenth Coalition, this isn't necessarily like something that I would do, but I think it's perfectly fine for them to do it. We will be fasting from sun up to sundown and working in the Salinas fields for 1 minute per year of slavery in the United States. We feast at the end of the day at the Monterey Airport. I mean, yeah, like that's perfectly fine and that's their freedom of assembly to put this together, and whoever wants to join that, that's their freedom of speech. If they believe that this is, a way of saying that slavery is bad and standing in solidarity with the long dead victims of it. But yeah, like, of all the brain dead things I see people on like this side do, this is one of the least. So I have absolutely no problem with it. I think it's perfectly fine. Honestly, maybe I would try it out if I were near. The premise behind the fasting and the fieldwork is to emphasize with the struggles of slaves who had to work in unbearable conditions. And because we're not going to whip or rape people, sorry, that's about the most we can have people volunteer to do. And I mean, if it turns out to be like a scam or the money doesn't go anywhere well or nobody feels anything about it, then we'll find out later and then people will riot against it when it tries to happen next year. But give them a chance, let them try it out. I absolutely think that this is just a kind of betrayal of any kind of decent values. They're entirely welcome to be offended by it, but to try to get it shut down, to prevent these people from being able to, maybe it's a mistake, being able to make a mistake, I don't agree with that. And because principle is very important to me, let me just spell it out. Even if these were all white people and they were just gathering around talking about how slavery wasn't a big deal, and that was like their event that they were planning, they're entitled to do that. If they secure a location to do that, I don't think you should try to stop that location from giving it to them. You can not patronize that location or whatever you want after the fact. Sometimes things you don't like or that are offensive can happen. That's kind of the point of the principle of free speech. And you can use your free speech to protest outside of that event, although honestly, if somebody did that, they'd want the attention, I bet. That's their right to do, and you're welcome to not like it and to let people know about it. I think people across America, especially black people, can celebrate or not celebrate Juneteenth however they want to. This is truly a momentous occasion, and not just because our government did something for the first time in a while, but because it recognizes a part of our national history. No, the end of slavery was not the end of racism. Decades from now, we'll be telling children that we were here when this holiday passed. Now, of course, the holiday will be used cynically and politically by activists and big mouths all throughout the years, but don't let them co-opt it, or anyone co-opt it. It's up to you how you are going to observe this holiday, even if it's just enjoying the day off. Some people will tell you to support black businesses on Juneteenth. Others will tell you the opposite, to support black communism, but it's up to you. Thanks for watching, have a good one, like this video and subscribe, and don't forget to check out my advice list of 100 terrible tips for white allies that they came up with. Bye.